Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes now. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Joining me again, not again today, but it was a long time since you were last on. It's Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm very glad to be inside as it is tipping it down.
It was quite amazing a little while ago, but it's settled down now. It's just the end of the world sunset, I think. And making his debut on the show, which obviously we all know what that's going to mean. You're going to get a lovely sound clip in a second. It's Will. Hello, Will.
Hello.
Yes. So, Will, you may or may not have heard, but you get the chance to tell us all about yourself, who you are, why you're connected to Sutton United. Essentially, it is who are you?
Now what?
And that was brilliant. It was the wrong one. My camera was in the way. My little camera. But let's move over that. Will, tell us who you are. Be professional.
So I'm currently at university in my sports journalism. Epsom Downs as well. But last year I got in contact with the football scene. Blake, like we need someone to force Sutton United. Played on the Astro pitch. I knew he was a strong child. I know his family very well.
I'm just going to stop you. I think you are cutting out a little bit there.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Are you on Apple?
I am, but I'm using Chrome.
This Restream does not like Apple stuff. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm using Chrome on Apple.
Okay.
Seems to be okay
Oh,
so
God.
far.
Will, do you want to jump off and come back on again? And we'll see if that does it. But we'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
And
Nice one.
go from there. All right. See you in a
Okay,
second.
cool.
If anyone from Restream is listening, I'm leaving, by the way. Charles, do you want the clip, or are you all right to just tell us who you are?
I will happily tell you who I am. Not a problem at all. Thank you so much for having me back on this season. I'm Charles Commons. I'm the producer and host of It's All Cobblers To Me, the club podcast of the year from the Football Supporters Association. Just get that in there. And a Northampton Town fan, obviously, although not in Northampton at this moment in time. So, I'm in Warrington near Manchester.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. Will, do you want to try again?
Can you hear me now?
No.
Yes, but on a slight delay.
No.
Okay. The headset, it's
definitely. Yeah, it's an Apple thing. I'll chat to you after, Will. I'll come back to you after, and we'll do it separate in pre-record. All right, I'll
cool.
Back to you in a sec.
Wonderful.
Right, sorry. Chris, no worries about the heavy lifting about yesterday. How was you saw the lineup. It was probably as strong as we could be at that point. We had Louis come back. We had Enzio moving back into midfield. What were you feeling sort of ahead of kickoff? Were you any confident or?
Just because like Walsall were one position below us, I kind of figured that it would be a bit of a niggly game, probably a draw. Ronaldo though, kind of like quarter of an hour in, I was kind of thinking, what am I going to be talking about with Mike tomorrow? And then everything happened. So just for kind of like context, for like Charles's benefit, I am one of the tunnel stewards. And like we have volunteer stewards in the tunnel area, and yesterday I was kind of like joint in charge, which was a fun day to be doing that, because we had a sending off, we had injuries, and yeah, it was busy, but I didn't actually see the incident in which Craig Eastman, captain, got injured with with what appeared to be a boot in the face. Yeah, but yeah, I was very glad to see him sitting in the dugout in the second half. It was quite. There was a bit of blood. Let's put it that way when it was coming down.
I mean, Craig is a professional and has been known to
sell.
Sell. Let's say sell. And it was one of those straight away. Everyone was like, "Oh no, this isn't a good one."
It was like H's injury. I think possibly last time I was on, when Harry. When Harry was just kind of like rolling around and writhing, and you're kind of like, that's not good. I
mean, it was... in fairness, he was in a lot of pain. We know. I would hope he's okay, but I would say this anyway. But I suspect he will have a mild concussion. Charles just watched it. A mild concussion, which is going to make him kind of forget all about his dance when he scored, but it wasn't a goal. And he did a little dance in the corner, and I think he's going to deny all knowledge of knowing that. So if anyone's got videos of that, keep hold of it. But yeah, we lost.
You've seen multiple takes of that. So it's not good. It's not good.
He was, no disrespect to Adam, who has done a sterling job since he's come in. But Adam Lovett was playing Conference South a month ago, and he was our only recognised midfielder left on the pitch. So we had Rob, who has played obviously midfield, moved into midfield, and Sam Hart, who has only just recently come back from a serious illness injury himself, into left back. Then we had to break down 10 men. We had lots of the ball, and Sutton United are not set up to break down teams with lots of the ball. We're set up to hit you on the break and have 10% possession and go, right, lovely, we just robbed you, off we go. We struggled. I thought wingers had quite a quiet game.
Omar looked sort of like, from what I could see on the pitch, Omar looked a bit frustrated with kind of like what was coming towards him. But it was, I mean, I think though towards the end, I was just very glad that we got a point, because I had this nasty feeling that they were going to kind of like do us, and also as well, like sometimes I have the honour of escorting the referee off the pitch, and yesterday was one of those days, and there was a lot of noise on the pitch. So it was I mean, I've only done that a handful of times, and I've actually done that more times where the opposition have either just won or they have just managed to claw a point out of something. It's a bit of it's a little bit of a lonely place, and there you are kind of like helping the referee. Like, you're in an even lonelier place.
Absolutely. But we I mean that game was 0-0 all day long. I think if we'd been playing, if we'd been playing now, still would have been 0-0. And then they hauled down Kobe. For some reason, and I have no idea why some Walsall fans are complaining about the red, which was a second yellow, not even a straight red, and the penalty. I'm like, neither one of those decisions can be complained against, because it was clearly pulled down in the area. It was like a wrestling move at one stage. But Rob, fair play, got up, scored it, and we thought we'd snatched an undeserved victory. I'll be honest, it wasn't a deserved victory, but an undeserved victory. But then our luck just doesn't seem to hold. Joe slipped, let them in. I thought it was offside in the build-up. The linesman did seem a little bit behind play, but again, I don't think it. Overall, a draw was probably the fairest result of that game.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, as Matt said, feels like a loss.
Yeah. It certainly felt that way, and I think Walsall felt that it was like a win in many respects. But I mean, it is a point, and I'm not wanting to sound negative, but this is our second season. And I want to make sure that there are two worse teams than us, kind of like in the league standings, and that is all I want, really. Another Wembley trip would be amazing, but I just basically just want to keep on in the football league. So
we want to be playing rubbish League 2 football next year as well.
Yeah, we do.
That's our ambition. But there's not. I mean,
one thing I will say. One thing I will say that you might not have caught was one of the Walsall players, guy called White, who I think was their number 2. He got a ball to the face, I think from Eastie, which shows you how early on in the match this was, and the man did not wince. It was amazing, and I was like, "What? You are made of steel, sir." And then he got sandwiched in another incident about a minute later, and then he got some magic water on the face. So I was like, yeah, clearly the Walsall water is amazing.
Was that the guy? He was cut up here, was he?
I think he had
cut?
It wasn't the guy that was kind of like wearing the Terry Butcher-esque kind of like arrangement later on. No.
Yeah.
But it was. But and also it was nice seeing how kind of like friendly the Walsall players were to Jack Rose, who is one of our keepers who didn't play yesterday, but used to play for Walsall, used to be part of the Walsall squad. And that is one of the nice things in the tunnel, is that you actually kind of like see some of the inter-club friendships and everything, and you just go, "Oh, that's lovely." I mean, you might kick 10 shades out of people on the pitch, but it's nice to know that there's a bit of humanity here. So
I had that years ago in my Sunday team. We came up against another team who had kind of offshot, and so a load of the players were friends. And me and the other the secretary for the other team had to go and tell the referee before the game, this lot of good mates, they go out drinking together. Can you just let a few things go, because they're going to kick the crap out of each other? So just be nice. But yesterday was, I mean, despite it sounding like an absolute war, it was a nothing game. It was one of those, just blow the whistle. Let's move it on, ref.
We also had the unexpected treat of appearance of David Ajiboye, who had gone up to Peterborough, and which has caused, I think, some excitement in some circles. However, sort of like one of the things I love about Sutton is that former players come back, and it might just be just to chill. Like Dino did it earlier on the season, and also as well, Max Biamu has done it, and I think it's just nice that people just can come back and it just shows that we're kind of like a friendly club. I mean, I don't think that there's too many of my former workplaces that I'll just come and hang out for a day or so in my own free time.
I think Dave has been to the training ground a couple of times as well. Sort of taken a gentle part in some of the things there. So I don't necessarily think him being there means anything, but
I don't think it does.
It's apparently 100% confirmed he's coming back in January. Is what the outcome of that, him being there yesterday, was. It's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I remember somebody saying something similar, because when Max Biamu was here, and they shouted up, and it was just like, "Oh yeah, Max Biamu says he's coming back." I was like, no, he probably didn't hear you.
He said hi.
He was just saying hi and just being friendly.
But now here's your tough one. I know I played it earlier, but you've got to pick some players of the day.
Player of the day.
Watch me do my dance. I'm the player of the day.
Okay. I've got two candidates actually.
Okay.
So candidate one is Eastie, bless him.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he did score, the best goal that we saw that day, even if it was ruled offside. I also think that Kobe put a shift in.
Yeah.
I think really did really well. Do you need me to come up with another?
No, I've got a couple because I wasn't sure if you guys were going to come up with.
Yeah.
So I had Kobe on my list. I've also got Rob because I felt he did exceptionally well when he moved into midfield. And one that you mentioned earlier, he was running and just trying to get everyone involved in the game. And he's on there all the time. It's every week we put him on there. It's Omar for just literally trying to get stuff going. But yeah, Kobe I did have on my list. If nothing else, he did this tremendous little flick with his leg in the penalty area. I was like, what's Kobe doing? He's supposed to hoof it. What are you doing there, Kobe? But yeah, I'll stick them on and we will no doubt get some questions as how we've managed to come up with 4 people for player of the day.
I mean, Wardy did well with what I thought. Because the AFC match, sort of like standing behind him or kind of close to behind him, it was really great to see, because normally my view is kind of like behind the dugouts at the halfway line. So it was nice to see kind of like a keeper at close quarters. And I was like, you are a fine keeper, sir.
Yeah, and tall.
Exceptionally
tall.
Yeah, well, most people are for me. But, yes.
Before we do move on, and actually I think Charles might be interested in this as well, because I think he does a bit of running as well. You've done the marathon the other day, didn't you?
I have.
Yeah. How was that?
I am glad that I have done it. I hereby announce my retirement from the London Marathon. I've now done 2 marathons, Brighton and London, and that's me done. I can say I've done multiple marathons. I managed to get away without a lot of pain or anything. So I mean, it was an amazing experience, just hearing all the music on the course as you go around, and like all the people sort of like coming out and cheering. And like I overtook a few rhinos and the man with the fridge on his back. It was I did get beaten by Chewbacca, who was running with me for the final 4 miles, and he was in a full-on kind of Wookiee outfit, and they were handing out water to him. I was like, yeah, fair play. But yeah, I mean, if people listening to this have never actually been to the marathon, I would say like come along, because next year it will be in its usual April slot. It is. I think it's an amazing kind of like carnival, basically, and it is fantastic. And also as well, the runners will appreciate it, and you will see all manner of crazy costumes. So it is a good time. And
we'll find out tomorrow whether we're in it again next year.
I have not entered the ballot.
I did read one thing, which I was like, if I ever get more than 10k, well, I got to 13, but if I ever decide, it sounds like good advice. This bloke was saying, if you're ever doing a chip timed event, get everything ready and then go for a cup of tea or something, and then start when the crowd has all gone. And they said, basically what I do is I start just before the sweepers come out, because it doesn't affect your actual time because you've got the chip time. And he said, but it affects your morale because you're overtaking all the time. And you don't have a fella with a fridge on his back overtaking you as you're dying. And so on. So I was like, well, that sounds like good advice, except I'd be overtaken by the sweepers.
Yeah.
What I hope you're doing.
You've got to remember, though, that these people that are doing it with like rhino costumes on for Save the Rhino, or fridges for whatever that is, or I don't know, the West Brom mascot with a boiler or whatever it is that they're wearing, they're all probably like sub 3 hour runners who are then having to run with all this gear on that then gets them to being like 4.5 hours. So don't ever let that put you off. They are all incredible runners who are now doing it with loads of stuff on their back.
for fun.
Yeah,
for fun and games.
Absolutely, for fun.
Yeah. So I was reminding myself of that because, like, when I was like running along the embankment, and I was like, "Don't let Chewie beat you," and I thought, "No, Chewie, this is not Chewie's first rodeo. This is your first rodeo. Don't do anything stupid. Just complete this thing."
Yeah.
So, because also I was like, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to enter the ballot again and hope, or sort of say, "All right, I've done it. Thank you." So yeah, there's a lot of talking to yourself that happens. But
try doing an ultra, Chris.
Do
an ultra, then you're proper hardcore, mate.
I have no pretense to be hardcore.
They're brilliant. Honestly, you'd love them.
I've been tempted to do. There's one that kind of goes along the length of Hadrian's Wall, and I kind of thought, oh, that'd be a cool thing to do. And then I kind of thought, yeah, but oh gosh, and
Trust
also
me,
as well,
you do one, and you always want to do another one.
Yeah. But also, I think the football club would rather have me actually kind of like stewarding on the Saturday rather than.
There's plenty of ultras that happen post-season. It's
fine. Yeah. Well, that's cricket. Yes.
So we've gone off on a nice little tangent. So
sorry.
I know it's fine. I've said before. Obviously, I do all the plodding. You've seen me plodding around the park run, nearly dying. But one of the things I find just really, really odd about the whole running thing is, even though you've got people that the title is elite, the whole thing is just so much. People don't necessarily care what you're doing. They support you, but you struggling to run 5K. No one's going to sit and judge you because they're struggling to run 50K, and everyone's got their own little target in mind, and they're not looking at you because they're just worried about not dying themselves. So if ever you're running out and you see another runner, don't feel really upset, because one day someone's going to look at you and go, "Oh God," and you'll then suddenly go, "Oh, they think I'm a real runner." I'm not. I'm just a charlatan.
Yeah. I mean, one of the Gandemonium crew who entered the London Marathon ballot and accidentally got in used to used to sort of speak of me in disgust about the fact that I would run like 2 miles from my house to Park Run. And he went, "Oh, you're one of those crazy people." I was like, "Yeah, you're training to run the marathon."
Yeah.
And to the very best of my knowledge, you haven't done a 10K before this. I'm not the crazy one, but I mean, the great thing is there are so many training plans, and so if you have entered the marathon on spec and your bluff has been called, there is support out there.
Just not from us.
So one thing I would also just say before we move on to other matters is I decided, even though I got placed on the ballot, I wanted to run for Shelter, which is a charity my brother works for, and also very good cause at the best of times, and especially now. And at Shelter, they gave you an absolute hero's reception for every runner that came into their bar. It was like they was like cheering and hollering. It was fantastic. Even though I was then having to stagger down some stairs. You could have chosen a venue without stairs. Yes, but yeah. So I mean, lots of other charities are available, but
but also through my work, I'm going to tell you now that Shelter do brilliant work. So if anyone is looking into them, they do some amazing work, especially as we're coming into the winter months as well. It is amazing. They also give lots of advice. Oh my God, I'm going into work mode. They give loads of advice on just general housing and how to avoid any potential problems, not just when you have the problem. So if there is anything, just look them up, and they are really, really helpful. Right, we're going to talk about some football, because I just suddenly went all work, Mike, all of a sudden. I'm not sure I liked it. It's Sunday.
So coming up in just a second, I did catch up with Will after the recording, and you can hear that here. But before we do, just have to mention that the women's team won their FA Cup match after going a goal behind at Herne Bay, and they scored an equaliser through Liv and a winner through Jazz, and Gabby cleared one off the line. Again, I think it's the fourth time this season, and Zoe saved a penalty. So it was a hard-fought match, but one that we eventually came through. Please, hopefully the draw is kind and we get a home draw. But if either way, we're going to be at home on Sunday, so hopefully see a lot of you there for next week's match. And here's that catch up with Will.
And we're now going to get the correct interview. We're going to get with Will. So you already had the nice intro with the who are you. So because we couldn't hear it properly, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're connected to Sutton now.
So I'm a uni student. I'm from Surrey. I'm in Epsom, but I reached out via Twitter, and I got in contact with the London football scene, and the editor Blake replied and said, well, Sutton, I've been a couple of times, but we haven't got a dedicated writer. And I know Bobby Charles through like school and football coaching and stuff like that. So I got in contact with him, and I was like, can I come down to the training ground? And he was like, yeah. Well, I didn't even ask that. He kind of just offered.
Yeah.
And I would love to. So from then I went down to the training ground when they were training at was it Walton Hersham? I think they were,
yeah.
And they were saying then, we're looking for places. And then from then on, it just kind of took off from there. So every home game I go to, and from then on, it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna no disrespect to anyone who this have to. We are gonna have to stop this because they're really good for that kind of thing. Is if someone contacts him and says, "Oh, I need to do this," yeah, come on down. Let's see what we can do for you. They're just so brilliant at little things like that. That's why there's so many of us that have supported the club. And once you're in, you're kind of hooked on forever and ever and ever. And there's people that have been sort of 60, 70 years that pop down the club and know everything inside out. The players are brilliant. It's just a really funny, weird little, wonderful, wonderful club. But what is it? So I'm guessing you're studying some journalism. This is not just I'm doing science, but I thought I'd do this as well.
No, so I do sports journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my second year now. But during my first year, university it is good, it's brilliant. But at the same time, I'm kind of sat there a lot, kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this free time? So I kind of, push myself to get in contact. And the thing is, in my course, there's a lot of portfolio work.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in contact with Bobby, of course, and then Tony, and within a couple of weeks, I did a piece for the Doncaster program, and I was kind of getting a lot of experience in the industry, and it's all thanks to Sutton, as you say. Maybe you need to knock that on the head, being such a community thing, because anyone could ask, and you guys would literally just roll out the red carpet, because I've got amazing access so far.
Yeah, I was personally amazed because obviously I do this and we all know how professional this is. But when we got to the Pizza Cup final, and I just sent a message, and any chance of getting a time with Bruce and Matt? They go, okay, well, I've asked, that'll do. Yep, no problem. And they literally gave me the time as they were giving the BBC and all the rest of it. And I was like, this isn't right. This is right. Totally wrong. Some weird bloke in his little broom cupboard can just go, yeah, give us a bit of your time, Matt. But yeah, so what is it you're hoping to do with this? What is it going to lead for you?
What, in terms of the university course?
Yeah.
Or I'm kind of got the blinkers on. I'm just seeing, we'll just finish the course and we'll see what happens. But as of what I've learned and been taught on the course, I've kind of only really learned the writing aspect and getting reports out on deadlines and getting them onto websites and stuff like that. Whereas this year they'll kind of teach me how to do podcasts, being in front of a camera, which I'll as soon as it's on, like there's a green light on my laptop now, I go red because I'm like, oh god, this is happening. So I guess I'll learn that, and that's all positive. But for what I see in the future, I don't know.
Yeah.
You
Never know. It's there's so much. The only thing that kind of popped into my head is obviously at the moment you're writing and you're talking from a Sutton biased point of view. No matter how much try not to be, you're involved with the team. You knowing the players, you knowing the people. So that's probably some point they're going to have to kind of teach you to go. No. You've got to try and just do it as a general story. So it's almost better doing it from teams you don't know. I'm not saying your stories come across biased. It's just obviously there's going to be a natural bias because favorable. But what's been the sort of the best experience so far?
Well, interestingly, when I went down to the training ground, it was just before you guys were preparing. I think you had an away game, so I couldn't actually go to GGL yet. My first game was the Pizza Cup final.
Oh,
so my first actual experience in the field was at Wembley, which
wow.
kind of I think a lot of people in my position would like to work their way up.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of
work your way down.
No, it's just I love it. I was speaking to a guy who worked for the Sun, the Walsall game, and he was like, "This is probably the best place you could be. Like the access is brilliant. Everyone's so polite, and if I ask for something, I get it. Not in like I want to speak to this player. Give me and they'll drag him out. It's like, can I please speak to Matt, as you said? And they're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I kind of started at the top, and which was hard because you walk in and you've got all these people from like ITV or there's people working for Sky, and I'm just sat there with my bag on, like, okay, did I charge my laptop last night?
Look, the podcasts are easy. Just talk rubbish for a few minutes and stick it out. The camera thing that comes, just have to pretend that no one else is listening. It's a lot easier doing it on the video call because we're more used to it now. Maybe 7 years ago we weren't used to this, but now it's like pretty much everything is done video call. So it becomes so much easier, and you do forget sometimes it's going out to more than just the person you're talking to. So
that's the thing about the podcast. I was watching earlier, and you guys were talking about running and stuff, and maybe it's a good thing that I disconnected because I don't do that.
No,
I would have still been able to maybe give my piece in the conversation.
It just randomly goes around in little things. Sometimes I go off tangent and go, well, how did we manage to talk about that for so long? It possibly helped that the Walsall game wasn't exactly the most exciting game in the world to watch. Had it been the Wimbledon one, we probably wouldn't have done all that. But it just But yeah, no, it's kind of those things, and people tend to enjoy the little tangent sometimes. I don't know. I know you go on to the Amber Planet forum. Do you read through some of them? Because some of them can go off, and you read the last post, and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, that's got nothing to do with the subject. Well, where did
I when I first joined, I did kind of work it because I did try to get my head around it. And sometimes I'll post, or sometimes I'll be looking at Sutton stuff that I need to be looking at and try to keep in the loop. And I'll go to think, where's the best place? And it's the forum. So I do read through, and there is people, the headline will be like, coming up to the game or something like that. And then you'll scroll through and they'll be talking about like your National League days. I'm thinking, what? Am I on the right? Like, what's happened here?
It used to be, it's got better over the years, but it did used to be very weird and wonderful.
Oh, right.
You would suddenly be educated and all these wonderful things. I swear to God, we were talking about playing Canvey Island a minute ago. And now we're on to this completely random subject.
Yeah.
But so, well, talk us through your normal, because you obviously see it differently to us. Because obviously every referee hates us, and every other player that goes on the pitch is a cheat, and all the rest of it. But so you see it through slightly different eyes. So tell us about your match day experience, because it would be a little bit different to ours.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. This is cool. So I get there just before like 1:30. I'd say I get there. I meet the little ticket kiosk booth. I think Anna is her name, the lady at the little ticket collection. Very lovely lady. Gives my ticket, walk round. I go through the office where all the club bar and all the is it the NBA lounge? I think that's what it is. I go up and meet Tony. Tony gives me program, team sheet. I get team sheet. But it's all the thing about Twitter now. Like, I'll get a team sheet and I'll look on my phone and it's already there. I'm like, they've beaten you to it, Tony. Yeah. But I also get a refreshment voucher. So I get £6 value, which is what they've started doing in the media stuff now, which is what a lot of clubs don't do, I think. Yeah. Another thing Sutton may need to knock on the head before, before your media benches are full up because everyone's using the voucher.
Yeah, hang on a minute. I'll do a podcast. I need to get those voucher. What's this about?
I might have to start, getting a couple of people to meet up and be like, right, what do you want? I'll get you this, get you that. But it's the difference, I guess, from being in my position is I watch some of the decisions, and this year, I think more than any other year, the refereeing is really, really bizarre. Like there was a thing again, I saw Swansea Cardiff. I don't know if you saw that. Cardiff player, he's punched the ball in the box, and it was just completely voided. Like no one saw it. But there's some decisions I see, and I have to be biased, or I'm tweeting it, or in a report or something. Like I can't say as a fan, I can be like, this referee's, what's he doing? Or maybe that decision's like, was he watching, or is he at the game, sort of thing. But it's the only aspect is I have to be level on the fence, which is at times it's easy, but at times it's very challenging. Again, at the weekend, the Walsall, I don't know if their form or something's been going on at the club, but when they equalised, the media guy went absolutely nuts when they equalised. And even the fans in the stand were kind of looking around thinking, I don't think you're supposed to do that. One of the first things I was taught was you've got to be professional. Even if you watch the team, even if you've just seen, you were at the City game and Aguero's just won the league for the team you're playing or watching, you've got to try and keep level-headed. So that's the only aspect which is different I can explain. But the only thing I can, go into detail about is if there's a goal, instead of being like, the scenes around me, you've got to kind of be like, right, this place has scored, this is the minute, got to check the board, try not to get the seating is one of the things I can talk about. You've got to try and sit so there's not like a pole in front of you.
Yeah, well, you got to do a little dance to
see around. Yeah. Like the goal, I think it was Maddox who scored for Walsall. I was kind of watching. I was watching who was running down. I was thinking, who are they chasing? There's a pole. Okay, it's Maddox. So that's the biggest difference I think from where I am.
Yeah, no, I have the floodlight in front of me, and I love doing my little dance to see what's going on. It's my.
Where do you sit? I was watching your video of the Milson penalty. Are you on the?
I'm on the curver.
On the curve, on the far side from the sub.
Where you sit, to your left, far side.
Okay.
Always on the curve until they demolish it, Claire and everyone else, if you're listening. I had another one for you, and I forgot what it was. So you're with us for the season and the London scene. They're obviously delighted. Do you get a share of their advertising receipts? I'm not asking for your full income. Don't worry, it's not.
No, it's at the minute it's voluntary work, but my was like, he did mention if we can get some sort of sponsorship or advertisements, then if I would love to share out the money. But at the minute it's voluntary. But I'm more than happy to be doing voluntary work with the amount.
It helps with the portfolio and
exactly and the amount of experience, because it's hard to get into the media side of the game through all the apps, and you get accepted and then you get passes. I wouldn't be able to do that, but maybe at Sutton, the way the access is, I reckon I'd probably message Tony at like 11:30 at night on a Friday and be like, can I get in? And he'd probably be like,
why not? Because there was a tweet from, I can't remember who it was now actually, but I've referred to it a few times. It was start of last season, and it was a journalist, and he said, I've received possibly the nicest ever confirmation email I've ever received from Sutton United. And he said, it's really difficult to explain. It's just an email, but it's so nice. And it's not like usual. And then loads of other journalists are like saying, yeah, okay, there's certain things that aren't as good as certain clubs, but oh my God, they treat you so well. They're just so nice.
Yeah.
I hope you never lose that. I really do.
That's the thing. When I went to Wembley, because I've only done one away game so far, which is Wimbledon. With one aspect of it is you get the little lanyard, and when I did the Wembley one, I had a lanyard, and one of the journalists, I wish I got his name. He was a lovely guy. As we were walking out, he was like, at grounds, because I said this is my first game. He's like, at grounds they'll try and chase you for your lanyard. He's like, hide it, and they did. They were like, where's your lanyard? He was like, say the old, oh, you're giving it to someone back there. And I did, because it was my souvenir. It was like, oh, I've done this just in case Twitter's ever erased for whatever reason. So where at Sutton, they're just like, if you do give it back, I do give it back sometimes. Sometimes I leave it in my place or I'll disconnect my card. But, if I ever got any, I would, give them back to help out. But it's just amazing. The club do everything. And I think every person who's been there would happily, put Sutton in their top 3, top 5, just because of how polite everyone is. The refreshment voucher, every little helps without sounding like every little helps.
No, absolutely. So your second year now, you said. So we've got you for another rest of this season and next season.
Yes. Yeah.
And then beyond.
That's the thing. I'd love it. I'd love if I was offered anything. I would like literally bite a hand off, because it's amazing. It's honestly amazing. I'm looking forward to doing away games and stuff, but trying to balance it. Student living cost is a big word that I need to focus on.
No, absolutely. I'm having that conversation at home as well, so I know all about that.
As much as I'd love to go up to like when you play Stockport or something like that, I need to be careful. But I think beyond the 2 years, I'd do anything to work for Sutton, because it is amazing.
You need to keep an eye on Twitter, because there's always people putting shouts out who wants a lift. So you need to see.
Thankfully, I drive, but I mean, if there's an offer there.
Yeah, you got to get the impoverished student. Oh, if you're going anyway. I'm sure people would. Honestly, because a load of the fans that do it as well. Like, yeah, I'm in the car, just jump in, go on, whatever.
You know what? I think it's more of who you follow on Twitter, because I'm starting to. The longer I do it, I'm starting to follow more fans.
Yeah.
Because at first I was just like, I had Sutton, I had you, I had the Gandemodium, and as it's going on, I'm starting to get a bit more, I'll say, colloquial in terms of who I follow. Like, I follow more of the down to earth people at Sutton.
Yeah, so, that's gonna be loads. We're all very, very like, you know what, we'll be fine. 50 points. You heard me say earlier, as long as we can watch rubbish League 2 football next year, we're not too fussed.
That's the aim. 50 points. That's all it's about.
50 points. 50 points, everyone. Beautiful, wonderful. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time. I will get you back on, and we'll do it properly with a. You can give your analysis on the game as well. Before you put it in print, we get exclusives. That's the word I need to use. Exclusives. But thank you for your time, Will, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to Sutton United Talk Time on podcast, the Sutton Podcast. If you are new to the show, hello, and you are very welcome. Hope you enjoy what we do. It's a very simple format. We get a few people on to talk about the game that's just gone, and then we preview the next game coming up. We are available on most podcast platforms where you can listen, rate and review. If you find that we're not on your preferred platform, please let me know and I'll sort that for you. If anyone would like to support the podcast, you can find out how with more information on the website, which is www.suttonpodcast.com, and there's a tab where you can find out how to be a guest as well. Please find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok with the username @SuttonPodcast. Every like, follow and share is really appreciated. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
We're going to look forward to the next match, which is on Tuesday, and it's at Northampton. And that's why Charles is here, not just to talk about running.
I thought that was all you got me here for.
I'm going to swing back. I had the guy who did the park run. Was he CEO?
Something like that, yeah.
I just randomly tried to get a Harrogate fan on, and then I looked through his Twitter feed just to make sure I hadn't got a complete nutcase on, and thought he's very keen on his park runs, isn't he? And then looked up in his bio and went, oh, that's why. And then Steve, another guy who's come on, and he said, no, he used to do a running or a marathon podcast for years and years and years. And I was like, never mentioned that. And he said, oh, I've been on one or two. Cheers, Tom. But yes, what have we got to look forward to, Charles? We've already done the Who Are You, so we don't need to do that. How's things gone this season, and have you got over last season?
Go away. Stop talking about last year. Not here to talk about that. No,
That's all we've got. All we've got is last year.
I am not over last year. No, I never will get over last year. What happened at the end of it? I am one of those Cobblers fans who Bristol Rovers fans keep telling to dry their eyes and all this nonsense because they're obsessed with us. All jokes aside, yes, completely over what happened last year. It's, for me, a week later, we were in the playoffs. That's what mattered. We were shell-shocked, I think, is the best way to put it in those playoffs. The lads just weren't mentally in the right place for them and weren't ever really likely to get past a fairly decent Mansfield side in the semi-final. So weren't really likely, I don't think, in hindsight, to get promotion that way after missing out on automatic in the way that we did. So it's one of those, we take what happened there and we use it to push ourselves forward for this year and to, keep reminding ourselves of what we've got to do this season to make up for what happened last. So that essentially, every game that we play, every game that we win, we will celebrate every single win like it's winning the league, right? And Steve Evans of Stevenage doesn't agree with that. Doesn't think that you should celebrate winning a game of football.
No, he didn't say that. He said he doesn't think you should celebrate.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. We shouldn't celebrate. You're quite right, Mike. Yeah, we shouldn't celebrate it. But we will do. We'll celebrate every single win, especially when, that's our first win in 4. So we'd lost. So last week, Leyton Orient away 0-0. And the 2 before that, we'd lost. So that was Salford and Walsall. Lost both of those 1-0. And it was just, it was one of those, we had a bit of an illness bout that went through the squad. So we beat Swindon at Swindon fairly. I was going to say fairly comfortably, but I can't actually remember the game that well thinking back on it. So I better not say that just in case. But I seem to remember thinking, right, that's a really good performance on the basis of we had quite a lot of players out. First team were out with illness, had a couple of injuries as well that we've had at the start of the season. And then the illness really did rip through our squad for about 2 weeks. And I think we're still kind of recovering from that. There are still some players who haven't really made it back to full fitness. They're slowly getting there. But yesterday was a performance where we had the majority of the lads back that we've been missing from that illness bout. And you could tell the difference. The game at Orient, we pretty much cancelled each other out. Ends 0-0. We had a man sent off. I say it was dubious, but the part of the disciplinary committee didn't uphold the red card, didn't let our appeal go through. And then to get away from that with a 0-0 draw against who were the league leaders, I think. Oh, no, they were second, I think, actually, at the time. So to not lose any ground on them was important. And then yesterday, going away to Stevenage, who we seem to just love to beat. We are their bogey team, it seems. It's one of those where you look back. We've all got bogey teams, right? We all know who those bogey teams are. We are Stevenage's. And that's not something that we necessarily think about, I don't think, but they clearly do, because their commentators on BBC Three Counties Radio were incredibly biased, which is fine. I mean, it is fine. It's fine because their audience is Stevenage fans, so it's absolutely fine for them to be biased in a way. But they kept mentioning, at one point, they called us the noisy neighbours from up the M1. And I was like, Stevenage isn't on the M1. Where's that come from? And why are we the noisy neighbours? It was a bit like, okay, I'm not sure where that's come from, but all right, then that's fine. Let's carry on with this and let's go with it. And yeah, it was a fantastic game yesterday against Stevenage. I actually thought any neutral who'd watched that game would have enjoyed it as a spectacle. A really good advert for League Two football. And obviously, I'm going to say...
It's good that one of us saw that.
I think we had the advert for League Two football.
Hey, look, we still had a rubbish referee, so you know it was still pretty much close to reality for everybody else. No, it was great. It was a really, really, really good game. It pretty much had it all. You know, 5 goals, a penalty, a sending off. Well, 2 sendings off if you count Steve Evans as well, getting sent to the stands. It was good. So, I mean, it sums up how our season has gone, which is that it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah.
And then to go and get that result kind of cements that start as being, you know, we are serious promotion contenders this season. Not that we weren't last year, but a lot of people didn't write us off. They just weren't talking about us in the first place, which is fine. I mean, we had a bit of a laugh, and we always do, with Gab Sutton on Twitter, because we always ask him, "Why do you hate the Cobblers, Gab? What's wrong with it?"
I think every club asks him that question.
Absolutely.
Why do you hate us?
But yeah, I mean, the start of this season has been pretty positive. We've had a, as I say, a bit of a dip, but we're through that now. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful for what lies ahead and our game on Tuesday night. Without wanting to sound big-headed or anything like that whatsoever, we owe you a little bit after last season. You coming to our place and turning us over. Not very happy about that. So we owe you a bit for that, and just what. I can't remember which one of you said it earlier on, but how like you struggle when teams are playing possession football against you. Well, sorry, boys.
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, is it the other way around?
We struggle when the team lets us have the ball, because we're like, we don't know what to do with this.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. We go on the break.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I just got one little comment from Alan, who said that your celebration sounded like ours at Wimbledon last weekend.
I was thinking that we're possibly Wimbledon's bogey team.
We might be yours, because we played you twice and we beat you twice, didn't we? Or was it a draw?
That's not a bogey team, Mike. Come on. The first 2 times we played you in like 50 years last year. You calm down.
100% of the time we've played you. And I do remember last year your manager getting very upset with Craig getting a red card, and he said he'd watched the replay several times and it was a definite red. And then when I watched the replay, I was like,
that was one that got rescinded.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yeah. So John Brady, our manager, is incredibly passionate and emotional. I mean, he is, and I'm sure other fans of other teams will probably put him in the same category as the likes of Steve Evans. I wouldn't go anywhere near as far as that, but he has that. He's definitely got that tendency, right? And if you've looked to sort of see what Steve Evans said in his post-match press conference after our game yesterday, he said that the reason why he got sent off was because John Brady had called his assistant, I can never remember his name, but he's also the same ilk, cut from the same cloth as Mr. Evans is, and probably is the worst end of it as well. Apparently, John Brady called him an expletive, and Steve Evans doesn't like expletives, apparently. So told John Brady in no uncertain terms not to call his staff names, essentially. And then he got a yellow card for that. And then went and turned back towards the dugout and said, something about like, oh, he's having a good game, isn't he? The referee. And that's what the referee has either heard himself or been told by his 4th official. Basically, I reckon Steve Evans got grassed upon by the 4th official, which is hilarious in itself. So John Brady, and you can see, John Brady has a nice smirk on his face. It's quite clearly a case of we were going to go here and we were going to wind him up, and it worked, and it happened. And, you know, I don't mind. We've had this conversation on the pod last week about whether John Brady's passion, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So he served a 1-game touchline ban in midweek in the Papa John's Pizza Cup, and after collecting 4 yellow cards. And so we were having that conversation. Should he really be going over the top to the point where he's picking up yellow cards for essentially bad-mouthing a human being that's trying their best in the middle of the pitch, you know, to do a job that they're not trained enough for, in my opinion, and they're not given the support that they really require to referee at this standard of football. That's not their fault. That is a much bigger issue with football, the FA, PGMOL, or whatever they're called, and you know, and the EFL. And I must admit, I'm not massively comfortable with it. I don't particularly like the fact that he is obviously saying too much and that he's going across that line. Now, obviously, I don't know the exact things that John Brady says to the referees to get those yellow cards. One instance is he just basically had a temper tantrum on the sideline, kind of stamping his feet, throwing his arms around, which when you look at it is quite amusing to see him do. And he gets a yellow card essentially for acting like a toddler.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually necessarily says anything directly to the referee in that instance, but on the point or on the times previously where he maybe has, and therefore he's gone against the respect campaign, I do have a little bit of a, I'm not too sure whether I like that. Having said that, though, I wouldn't change him. The fact that he deeply, deeply cares and is that passionate about being the manager of our football club is, you know, perfect. And as my podcast co-host Danny said on our episode last week, it's going to make any win, any promotion or cup win or whatever it is that might hopefully happen in the future, it's going to make it all the more sweeter knowing that there's kind of like one of our own leading the team. So I as much as I don't like parts of it, there's also the other bit where I absolutely love it. And, you know, it really feels like there's a big togetherness amongst the fans, the squad, you know, the coaching team and everybody at the football club.
Yeah. I was going to say that's essential because I'm also a Plymouth Argyle fan, and I can think back to times in Argyle's recent past, like John Sheridan, where you definitely didn't get that togetherness, and there was a kind of like a distance, and we've been very lucky at Sutton where we do have managers who just get it and are part of the community. But also when you were speaking about kind of like sort of like winding up the refs and stuff, it occurred to me yesterday that like Doz, Matt's predecessor, would have probably been shouting out about whether the referee's assessor were in during time during yesterday's match. So.
I don't think. I mean, the one thing that I would say, every time that John Brady's picked up a yellow card, it's been because he's not agreed with the decision the referee's made, and he's basically just, by the looks of it, and again, I don't know the actual words that are said, obviously, but essentially what he tends to be doing is going, I can't believe you've given that decision that way, is essentially the reason why he goes over the top. Yeah. I mean, he even said when Ben Fox got sent off against Leyton Orient, which, you know, a lot of us debated whether or not it really was a sending off. It was very, very debatable. John Brady's words after were he got a yellow card himself for berating the referee for that decision. And he said when he was asked about it at the end of the game, if I don't stick up for my players in that position, then I've got no right to be the manager of this football club.
Yeah.
And therefore, I completely see where he's coming from. It's whether or not he oversteps the mark in terms of the way that or how or words that he uses towards a different person. That's the question I would have. But I know John Brady. He's the loveliest guy in the world when you're talking to him. He really is. But then I'm sure that people say that about Steve Evans. He's got a wife, so somebody likes it.
Not sure they do. We've got that though with Omar. He's an absolute monster, and literally, I think all he needs to do is step onto the pitch and bend down to tie his shoelaces, and he's getting a yellow card. But as Chris will testify, as soon as he comes back into that tunnel, he's a lovely guy.
Oh, he's really nice. Yeah, he's one of our nicest players. He often asks about my mum. He's never met her, but he asks about her.
I'd be careful about that. You know?
But I've just looked up the result last year. It was 0-0 at our place. It wasn't. It wasn't 1-0. So we haven't got 100% record over yard. I rescind that statement.
Good.
But
get out.
I was going to say, I thought we'd lost that match. I
think we grimly hung on and cost them 2 points. Let's skim over that bit. Let's not bring that up again. So what do we think about the game? You guys obviously doing well. You've been. I don't watch an awful lot of other games other than what's on the ITV thing, but you guys seem to be doing that whole, like, as you said, we're getting the points now. We're putting them on the board. We're just churning over. Do you think you're going to come and just swat away little old Sutton, or do you think we've got a tiny chance that we're going to be underestimated? Because we've got a horrendous injury list at the moment. And John Brady, if you're listening, I mean, it's terrible. We've got we're playing kids, and you might as well not turn up. Just give us the points.
Oh dear. I mean, I would never ever say that we were just going to turn up and take 3 points. That doesn't matter who we're playing. That doesn't happen. That's not the Cobblers' way. So I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't do you any disservice at all. The thing with us is that we don't have one way of playing. We mix it up. We can do the direct long balls. We can pass it around and keep possession for ages and look pretty. We can do the shut up shop and just not let anyone pass the bus and all of that sort of stuff, and we can attack and blow you away. So it's not easy to sort of know which Cobblers side is going to come out and play. I mean, essentially, we lost to Walsall a couple of weeks ago when we had that illness bout going through the squad. Walsall play a very agricultural way. This was before they'd sacked their manager, I think, or they just had. I can't quite remember exactly when it had happened in relation to their manager change, but we struggled to break down their basically, just hit it long. So they were very defensive minded, and we just didn't have the quality to get through it. And then they scored a goal. I think it was from a free kick that was headed in. But it wasn't particularly pretty, and the game wasn't very pretty to watch either. But now we've got our players back. We were expecting that similar kind of game against Stevenage, really. And we did get that in parts, although, to give Stevenage some credit, they're a much better side than they have been for the last 20 years. But we were able to combat, their agricultural backline, essentially. All of their defenders are basically brutes who love to just clear it. That's their job. That's what they're very good at doing, and that is what they do on a regular basis. Well, within the first 30 seconds, they were unable to do anything about Louis Appere going through, and the only thing that they were able to do was scythe him down and give away a penalty. So it's very good that we're able to now have the quality to get through that kind of thing. And I'm not suggesting that it'll be a game like that against you guys, because like you said, Mike, other than watching that terrible highlights program on ITV, I don't tend to see much of other teams in League Two other than when we're playing them. So I don't know exactly how you're playing, although I did catch a bit of your game against Salford a couple of weeks ago and saw, I'm sorry, I turned it on, and that was when they scored both their goals. I apologise. Clearly my fault. But yeah, it was looking at that. I think you're probably most likely expecting, from our point of view, to play like Salford do or did against you guys. So that if you're sort of looking for what are we going to go and come and do, then it's probably going to be a bit more possession based and, play it around you and attack at pace. You saying that the wingers didn't really have a look in on Saturday for you guys against Walsall, I'd probably expect that to be the case again. We've got two very, very quick, both of our wide sides are quick. Right. So you are going to, and that's going forward and back.
Yeah, right.
So that might be where we look to exploit by the sound of what you guys have said earlier on. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, but we're at home. It's under the floodlights of Sixfields. It's always good on a Tuesday night. Quite enjoy Tuesday night football. So yeah, we'll see. But I wouldn't expect the last season to be repeated.
No.
I'm afraid.
Okay. And Chris,
do you think it's going to be a long night?
Yeah. Do you want to talk them through our plan A, plan B, and plan C, which are basically copy and paste of plan A?
Yes. Yeah. I think we're just going to try to be very well drilled as much as we can at the back and just hope that something happens.
We'll count up the bodies. We'll see who's available. We'll pick names out of a hat and go on, boys, crack on. See what you can do. Right. Before we finish up, we do have probably the most important part for an away game, and Charles, it's on you to help us out with. Where should they be going for a drink? So it's the important bit. It's called Pub of the Week, and this is me singing.
That graphic is immense. I mean, I've heard it before, but I've not actually sort of seen the graphic. People, it is worth coming in for the live stream just to see that. The dancing pint glass.
I enjoyed that immensely. It was wonderful. It really was. I enjoyed it. Well done.
Wait till you draw us in the pizza cup. Wait till you draw us in the pizza cup. There's something whole different for the pizza cup. I think it's even worse than that. Anyway, so where's good? Obviously, it's a late one, so they're not going to get the full benefits of Northampton. But where would be good for the guys to have a jar or seven?
Well, essentially, so first of all, you're asking the wrong person because I don't live in Northampton, haven't done for years anymore. But no, essentially the away pub is TGI Fridays.
Okay.
So it's basically directly opposite the away end. You can't miss it. The bus, the coach will bring you in past it. So that's where essentially the away fans will go. 9 times out of 10. Being Sutton, and I don't mean any disrespect to this at all whatsoever, you won't get the away end. You'll get shoved in the corner of the east stand because there won't be enough of you to open the away end.
As long as it's got a cover, they're not going to mind.
It's got a cover up there, but behind you there's nothing. So if it's coming in like that, you're going to get wet, I'm afraid. So, look, because of you guys, I don't expect you to bring more than maybe 100 or so. Is that being?
Probably maybe get up to 200. But
okay,
with it being a Tuesday, it's a bit of a ropey one.
So 100 feels fair. I didn't feel insulted.
Okay, that's fine. So, I mean, essentially, our bar at the ground, Cars Bar, is open. And for a game like against yourselves, I'm sure you're welcome to go in and have a drink. There is an outside area to it as well. So as long as it's not raining, then you're plenty of room to be able to go and get a drink. And there might even be an outside bar. Don't quote me on that, because there is one occasionally. It's one of those that gets wheeled out every now and again.
Right.
So if there's demand for it, it will be there, but who knows?
Exactly.
So you'll be fine there, and you'll also be fine if you go up to the Six Fields, which is a Hungry Horse, which is on top of the hill. So it's basically behind the home end, at the top of the hill. The Hungry Horse, Six Fields. I think it's just called the Six Fields now. That's a Green King pub. And, that's where most of our home fans will go to for drinks before the match if they're not in Cars Bar. So any of those places you will be more than welcome to go into before the match. And after as well.
And after, yeah.
I was going to ask about I was going to ask about the hill, because I remember from watching sort of like in sort of like 2020, your sort of like playoff semi-final, where there were some fans who'd managed to, I think, sneak onto the hill to watch proceedings. So I assume that is more vigorously policed and kind of. No, okay.
No, I mean, look, right, you can't see the whole pitch.
No,
you just can't. No. So, I mean, look, if you want to just go and stand on top of a hill to watch half a football match, okay, be my guest. Years ago, we used to have a fence that would go up, and that therefore you couldn't go actually off the path that is up there. I mean, you'd still be able to see. There weren't. It was just a wire mesh fence. It wasn't. Full of advertising or anything, although that would be an idea, wouldn't it? And it didn't block anybody's view. So it's just, it's one of those, when people can't get a ticket, they'll go and watch from up there if they're really that bothered. But no, that doesn't. Generally speaking, it tends to be just people that are wandering past and they go, "Oh, there's a game on, and I can see the majority of it. I'll stand here and watch."
Okay.
And that's it. But I wouldn't go in the ground, for goodness
sake.
Actually have a view.
No. I wasn't proposing that. It was just one of the things that I just remember.
Wasn't a plan.
No.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, gents. Charles, I've got done, so you've got plenty of time to have a drink or anything before your show, which is going to be shortly. And Chris, I got done before I promised as well, so you can go and watch your show.
Yes, I can go and watch Doctor Who.
Excellent.
Don't. I can't watch it tonight. I'm gutted.
Right. Okay. Well,
no spoilers on Twitter, everybody. No spoilers.
No.
Or just stay off Twitter and just get out.
There is that.
Mute Doctor Who.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you very much, gents. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
United!